Hello, and welcome to video 3 of our series on the Local School Wellness Policy Triennial Assessment for Connecticut School Meal Sponsors. This video will cover how to complete the WellSat-I. This video was developed in a collaboration between the Connecticut State Department of Education and the University of Connecticut's Red Center for Food Policy and Obesity. The second step of the triennial assessment process is completing the WellSat-I. This step assesses compliance with your written policy and with federal requirements in your implementation of wellness practices. This step looks at what is actually happening in your schools, what is being implemented, and the practices that are in place. To assess these practices, we will be using the WellSat interview, also known as the WellSat-I. This measure was designed as a companion to the WellSat 3.0. The WellSat-I uses interviews to measure the extent to which practices are in place that match each of the WellSat 3.0 policy items. The WellSat-I measure is available for download on the WellSat website. Worksheet 2, which is available from the State Department of Education, will be your scorecard for this measure. Find your copy of this worksheet and let's take a look. This worksheet has been organized in the same format as the WellSat-I, which is broken down into the same 6 subscales that are used in the WellSat 3.0. There is a space at the beginning of each section where you can write down who is going to be interviewed and the date of the interview to assist you in planning. Looking further down the page, you will see that we use a capital icon to highlight which items are federally required. You should pay special attention to these items throughout the evaluation process. We also use a schoolhouse icon to indicate if a practice is implemented at the school level rather than at the district level. This signals that these items might vary across the district. Ideally, you would score these items for each school in your district. However, for the triennial assessment, you may choose an elementary, middle, and high school that are representative of the practices that are taking place across your district and score school level items based upon those schools. As we mentioned earlier, the WellSat-I is a companion measure to the WellSat 3.0. This slide shows how the items on these measures mirror each other. On the left, we have the NE1 item as written in the WellSat 3.0, which reads, includes goals for nutrition education that are designed to promote student wellness. This policy is federally required, as noted in the item language. The matching WellSat-I item reads, does the school district have specific goals for nutrition education designed to promote student wellness? The follow-up question asks, does this include a standards-based nutrition education curriculum? For this particular item, you would need to interview the person who either teaches nutrition education or who oversees the nutrition education curriculum in order to determine how this policy is being implemented in schools. So from this example, you can see how each WellSat-I item asks about a practice that matches the policies measured by the WellSat 3.0. This slide is to help determine who should be interviewed for the WellSat-I. There are many components to school wellness, so it will be necessary to interview multiple people. The District Wellness Committee should work to look at each section and decide who will be best suited to answer each question. We've created a list here of the people who will be most likely to be able to answer the questions on the WellSat-I. The food service director may be able to answer many of the questions. A school principal should also be included, as they can answer the questions relating to the school level items. Some of the questions are more classroom-based. While it is possible that the principal can answer these, teachers will often be able to best answer some of the school level questions. District level questions can be answered by district level administrators, such as the superintendent or an individual that oversees the nutrition and physical education curriculum for the district. We are going to be going through the school meal subscale now, as many of you are familiar with the school meals in your district. If you are not familiar with school meals, you should ask your district's food service director the questions in this section. You should now take out your WellSat-I measure and keep Worksheet 2 handy. Turn to page 3 of the WellSat-I, where you will find the standards for USDA school meals subscale. We are going to be going over these items now to answer the questions for your district. For the purposes of this evaluation, in order to be representative of the actual practices that occur in your district schools, use the knowledge that you have of what normally happened within your district pre-COVID. Disregard the current practices, as many school practices are not normal currently. As we go through this section, please feel free to pause the video and restart as needed so that you have time to score each item. We are now going to be scoring item SM1, which has the capital symbol by the policy icon, which demonstrates that this is a federally required item. The WellSat I uses the same 0-1-2 scoring as the WellSat 3.0 does for written policies. The written WellSat policy item is shown at the bottom and reads, assures compliance with USDA nutrition standards for reimbursable school meals. Federal rule language states that local educational agencies must set standards in nutrition guidelines for all food and beverages sold to students during the school day that are consistent with the applicable requirements set forth under 210.10. Additionally, the WIC Reauthorization Act of 2004 states that all wellness policies must provide an assurance that guidelines for reimbursable school meals shall not be less restrictive than regulations and guidance issued by the Secretary of Agriculture. The top portion of this is the WellSat interview item. You should interview the Food Service Director for this question, which is, have there been parts of the Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act regulations for breakfast or lunch that have been difficult to implement? If yes, are there features of the district's meal program that are not yet in compliance? A score of 0 is given if there are features of the meal program that are not yet in compliance with the Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act. If you are fairly confident that all meals are compliant with elements of the Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act, score this item a 1. And if you are very confident that all meals are in compliance with the elements of the Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act, score this item a 2. You can now mark this in your scorecard with the score that you think best represents your district. We're now going to be moving on to item SM2. The SM2 written policy addresses access to the USDA school breakfast program. Again, for this item, you should interview your food service director. The question asks, does the district offer breakfast? If yes, is breakfast offered every day? Is breakfast offered to all students? Examples include, breakfast is only offered on testing days, only offered on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, or only offered in some schools. To get a score of 0, breakfast is not offered in the district. To get a score of 1, school breakfast is offered, but not every day to all students. And to get a score of 2, school breakfast is offered every day to all students. Again, please mark this in your scorecard. We're now moving on to item SM3. The written policy item for SM3 states, district takes steps to protect the privacy of students who qualify for free or reduced price meals. The National School Lunch Act puts restrictions on how much information can be shared from participants. The United States Department of Agriculture states, school food authorities must assure that a child's eligibility status is not disclosed at any point in the process of providing free or reduced price meals, including notification of the availability of free or reduced price benefits, certification and notification of eligibility, provision of meals in the cafeteria, and at the point of service. Again, for the WellSat I portion of this item, your food service director should be able to answer this question, which is, how does your school ensure that children who are receiving free and reduced price meals cannot be identified? How confident are you that it is not possible for the students to identify those who qualify for free or reduced lunch? For a score of 0, the respondent is uncertain and believes that it is possible to identify students receiving free or reduced meals. For a score of 1, the respondent is fairly confident that students cannot be identified. And for a score of 2, the respondent must be confident that all students cannot be identified. Give a score of a 2 if your district provides universal free meals. Again, take a moment to place the score that you think best describes your school district in your scorecard. We are now moving on to SM4. The written policy item for SM4 addresses how to handle feeding children with unpaid meal balances without stigmatizing them. For the SM4 interview, ask yourself, how does the district handle unpaid balances? Follow-up questions to determine if a student is stigmatized include: how are the students and parents notified? Is the student identified in the cafeteria? Is the student refused a meal, given a different meal, or given the regular meal? To receive a score of 0, the respondent believes students are stigmatized in some manner, visibly identified in the cafeteria, refused a meal, or given a different meal. To receive a score of 1, the respondent is fairly confident that they are not stigmatized or given a different meal. And to receive a score of a 2, the respondent is confident that students with unpaid balances are not stigmatized in any way, for example, overtly identified, and are always given the regular reimbursable meal. Take a moment to mark what you think best describes your school district with a score of 0, 1, or 2. We are now on item number SM5. For the written policy, SM5 reads, specifies how families are provided information about determining eligibility for free or reduced price meals. For the SM5 interview, ask, how are families provided information about eligibility for free or reduced price meals? To receive a score of 0, information is only available upon request. To receive a score of 1, information is available only on the district website. And to receive a score of 2, there is a clear procedure for providing information through multiple avenues. For example, applications are sent home to all families at the beginning of the school year and are available on the district website, or your district provides universal school meals. Take a moment and put a 0, 1, or 2 on your scorecard based on which score best reflects the implementation of this practice in your district. We are now on item SM6. For the written policy, SM6 specifies strategies to increase participation in school meal programs. For the interview item, SM6 asks, are specific strategies used to increase participation in the school meal programs? If yes, please describe. Examples include smarter lunchroom strategies, limiting competitive foods, requiring high school students to have a scheduled lunch period, taste test and student input, grab and go, or breakfast in the classroom. To receive a score of 0, no specific strategies are used to increase participation. To receive a score of 1, respondent identifies strategies that are used infrequently or inconsistently. For example, promotions only occur at the beginning of the year or on special days. And to receive a score of 2, the respondent identifies multiple strategies that are used consistently. Now take a moment to mark the score which best fits implementation in your district. The next is item SM7. The written policy item addresses the amount of seat time students have to eat school meals. The WellSat I item asks, how long are the breakfast, if applicable, and lunch periods? Within that time, how much time do students typically have to sit down and eat their meals? To receive a score of 0, students typically have less than 20 minutes to sit down and eat lunch and 10 minutes to eat breakfast. To get a score of 1, students sometimes have 20 minutes to sit down and eat lunch and 10 minutes to eat breakfast. And to get a score of 2, students consistently have at least 20 minutes to sit down and eat lunch and 10 minutes to eat breakfast. Take a moment to input the score which you think best reflects your district's practices. Now for item SM8. This is a federally required item as indicated by the Capitol building next to the WellSat policy language, which states, free drinking water is available during meals. Federal rule language states that schools must make potable water available to children at no charge in the place where lunches are served during the meal service, consistent with amendments made by Section 203 of the Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act, and in the cafeteria during breakfast meal service. Moving on to the SM8 interview question, is free, which means no cost to students, drinking water available to students during meals? This does not include water for sale. Follow-up questions ask, does the cafeteria have water fountains? Are there a sufficient number of working water fountains? Can students take water back to the table, or do they need to drink at the fountain? Do students perceive the water and fountains to be clean and safe? To receive a score of 0, water is not available or only available for sale. To receive a score of 1, water is available during meals, but access is inconsistent, only available sometimes, or only available upon request. To receive a score of 2, free water is consistently available to students during meals. For example, water fountains or water filling stations are available in all cafeterias, water jugs and cups are present in the cafeteria, and students have access to water throughout the meal period. Now, take a moment to input the score you think best reflects your district's implementation of this practice. We are now moving on to the second to last item on the school meal subscale, SM9. This is another federally required item, and the WellSat policy item states, ensures annual training for food and nutrition services staff in accordance with USDA professional standards. Training requirements include new and current directors 12 hours, new and current managers 10 hours, and new and current staff 6 hours. And the federal requirement information is available at the website listed at the bottom here. In regards to the SM9 interview, the question that you should ask should be, what is the frequency and amount of training provided to the food and nutrition staff? Does it meet USDA professional standards? To receive a score of 0, training amount and frequency does not meet the USDA professional standards. To receive a score of 1, the training amount and frequency meets the USDA professional standards for some staff, but not for everyone. And to receive a score of 2, training for food and nutrition staff meets or exceeds the USDA professional standards. Now take a moment and input the score that you think best reflects your district's level of implementation of these practices. We are now on the last item of the school meals subscale of the WellSat-I. There is a watering can icon next to this item, which indicates that it is a farm-to-school policy. The WellSat 3.0 item for SM10 addresses purchasing local foods for the school meals program. Procurement is one of the 3 components of the farm-to-school program. Procurement is defined as local foods that are purchased, promoted, and served in the cafeteria or as a snack or taste test. More information about the USDA Farm-to-School program is available at the website listed here. For the SM10 interview, you should ask, are you familiar with the Farm-to-School program in your district? Is it a priority to procure locally produced foods for school meals and snacks? If yes, what efforts are made to increase local procurement? Are strategies used in the cafeterias to promote them? To receive a score of 0, there is not an effort to procure locally grown foods in the district. To receive a score of 1, some locally grown foods are purchased for schools, but it is not a priority. And to receive a score of 2, procuring locally grown food is a priority. The respondent can describe specific efforts to increase purchases and promote local foods, such as marketing foods with the name of the farm or taste tests. Now take this time to enter the score that you think best reflects your district's implementation of this practice. Congratulations! You have completed the Standards for USDA School Meals section of the WellSat-I. Next, you will need to make a plan to complete the rest of the measure. Determine who needs to complete each remaining section of the WellSat-I in your district. You may find that you may need to interview multiple people for a section, or even a single question, in order to obtain an accurate picture of implementation in your district. Then you will need to distribute the WellSat-I sections or questions to the appropriate personnel to complete. Alternately, you can select someone to interview the appropriate personnel for each section. Do what works best for your district. The important thing is that you have an accurate representation of what practices are taking place. Next, you will compile all the scores for the WellSat-I into a single scorecard using Worksheet 2. And finally, you'll be ready to proceed to Video 4, identifying connections between policy and practice. This concludes Video 3, completing the WellSat-I. The next video will address how your policies and practices measure up to each other. If you have any questions regarding the WellSat I or the triennial assessment process, please feel free to contact us.